Hey guys, hope you're well. My name is Rob. Welcome to Kinetic Rugby League. In this video, I'll be giving you my Super League Round 18 power rankings. Let's crack on with 12th place. In 12th place, and still in 12th place, London Broncos. Unfortunately, they are still well off the majority of teams in Super League, unfortunately. But I will say, over the past couple of weeks, I do get the sense that they've certainly improved. Maybe scoreline-wise, it hasn't looked great still on some occasions. But I do get the impression that on the defensive side, they are at least a little bit more disruptive in some cases. And on the attacking side, they do look a lot better. Execution looks better. Timing, speed, two very important aspects in the attack. And to me, those, based on the eye test, look a little bit better. There have been times where they look very one-dimensional. They're just trying to get used to a few basic shapes. But now they do look a little bit more expansive. Individuals are making better decisions. And they are improving. They have improved throughout the season as a team. It's just not been enough to kind of stay with other Super League teams as well. But London Broncos still in 12th place. On to 11th place, and still in 11th place, I have Hull FC. Still the same word, energy. I think they look a lot better. A little bit like with London, results-wise hasn't always been great. But on the attacking side, especially since Truman's come back in and Moy developing consistently week in, week out as a fullback, as an inexperienced young lad, he's going to grow. There's a lot of excitement around Hull FC at the moment. I think maybe with all the signings, that might contribute to a more positive culture, knowing who the coach is going to be next year as well. I think that might just add to the thought that, well, there's less pressure on now because we know what could be next year, if that makes sense. So for me, Hull FC just feel a little bit lighter. That weight really isn't on their shoulders. I think they've accepted, look, this is a bad season. We might get a few wins here and there, but we've accepted this will be a bad season, and therefore the pressure is kind of off. We're just going to focus on who we want to keep around for next year. What could the team look like? Who deserves a spot? Who doesn't? Who's going to contribute to the culture and the feel around the team? And I think that has been a key factor. On the defensive side, they look really resilient. The scramble defence looks really good. And on the attacking side, they are creating opportunities. And again, Truman and Moy are helping with that, especially since Truman's come back in. It hasn't always been perfect since he's come back in, but certainly better than it was, which is the most important thing for them right now. So Hull FC still in 11th. On to 10th place, and still in 10th place, I have the Huddersfield Giants. Fair enough beating Salford, but they looked pretty low energy. Of course, they stuck with them for the most part, which is great, and then eventually got the win in the final 10 minutes when Salford were a man down. So that's kind of kept them there. Plus, also teams above them deserve to stay above them. I wouldn't read too much into the win against Salford. Yes, again, fair play for sticking with them for a lot of the game and then getting it done, obviously, when they had the man advantage. But yeah, just extremely low energy. I didn't really feel like they had a firm grasp on the game or any real control. They just look very stale. Of course, they will feel a little bit different with Luke Robinson in there. He's going to want to continue to fight. I'm pretty sure he publicly said he wants to keep the Huddersfield job. Whether he will, I don't know. But he might be trying some new things, putting his own stamp, his own signature on that team, on the attack and defence. So Huddersfield might look different over the next couple of weeks. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, still a pretty poor team on both sides of the ball generally. Huddersfield Giants still in 10th. On to 9th place now, and moving down one, I have the Leeds Rhinos. I think their effort against Hull KR was decent. It was decent, but still lacking in attack and in defence. Obviously, Hull KR are a strong team. Possibly could be perceived as unfair, but I don't think so, mainly because they have still been poor over the last couple of weeks, and there is a team that needs to be moved up. So Leeds have to be moved down to accommodate for it. I do think over the next couple of weeks, Brad Arthur will have a huge impact on that team. I don't know if it'll be enough to make playoffs, but it has been mentioned during the Sky broadcast that the intent might just be to set a good foundation for next season. So Brad Arthur might not stay on for next year, but if he can, come in, steady the ship, kind of set some non-negotiables for the individuals to kind of keep going into next season. I think Leeds will be okay with that. I think they'll be okay going forwards. They'll certainly look better for the rest of the season than they have been over the last couple of weeks and months. But yeah, they're still pretty dodgy on both sides of the ball. Sometimes can throw up some good points because they've got the individuals to do it. Brodie Croft, Lockie Miller, Momirovski on the edges, Handley, Newman. Like they've got weapons in there, but as a unit, still struggling at times. Defensively, hit and miss on occasions. Overall, can be a tricky team some weeks, but yeah, still well off at the moment. So Leeds Rhinos down 1 in 9th. On to 8th place now and moving up 1. Castleford Tigers. Fair play to them. They are continuing to improve week on week on week. The results that they've had over the past couple of weeks have actually been really, really good. Even with the losses that they've had, been very competitive games. They're a team that's now looking like they can control games, they can compete in attack, they can be really resilient in defence. There just feels like a really good atmosphere around the team at the moment. And again, it still doesn't feel like a team that's got like huge weapons in there, but there's just a few players that can come up with special moments. Miller has been really good over the last couple of months. The inclusion of Tex Hoy in there has been huge for them. And even, Senior this season down that left-hand side has been massive for them. So I think they're another team with a huge culture shift. I think Lingard has done a good job to make sure that they haven't lost sight of, whatever the message has been. Maybe they've shifted things up mid-season. They've focused on some different things. I don't know. But I get the impression that there's a very tight-knit group there that really listen to the coach, want to fight for him, want to work for him. And they've probably, stuck to the guns, had an idea of how they want to play, what they want to do. Hasn't really been working. They finally got that to work. And just the more that they could see that it actually works for them, they're just buying into it more. There's more confidence around that team. And now they're just starting to push. They're starting to thrive. Again, I intend to actually go through their playoff chances. Like, I'm going to look at teams around them and actually see if they could make it. I think mathematically they still can. I think they are so far out there to make playoffs, but if they do, I'd be extremely impressed. But Castleford Tigers up 1 in 8th. On to 7th place and moving down 1, I have the Salford Red Devils. They also, like Huddersfield, appeared to be extremely low energy. Like, very, very low energy. And this is coming up against a Huddersfield team. Now, if you look at the results recent weeks for Salford, they've been really, really great results. But then to come against a Huddersfield team that is, like, they've just lost their head coach, they've just lost their captain, and then to just be so stale, like, attendance-wise, obviously it's not great. Like, Huddersfield don't get great attendance, neither does Salford at home. The whole stadium felt very flat. Maybe it would have been different if they're at home, but it just felt very low energy. That felt like there was no support, nothing really pushing them on. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those off weeks. That might just be it. It's just one of those. Maybe they'll bounce back next week. I don't really know. It just felt... That's all I could really say. It just felt very low energy, and like they just didn't want to be there, really. The only player to me that felt like they really wanted to have a go was probably Miller, but that's kind of what he's like. He's very high energy, and I actually quite like that about him. Slight side note, during his Widnes Vikings days, I actually really wanted him at Warrington, because I thought that he was like the kind of six that if he was in a better environment, a better team, he could actually really thrive and help a team to push on. But yeah, there you go. There's a side note, but Salford Red Devils down 1 in 7th. On to 6th place now, and moving up 1, I have the Leigh Leopards. This one, I think because they were so dominant against London Broncos, and obviously, the classic line, which I think is very disrespectful, but I do kind of need to say, is it's only London. I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say it, but the expectation is that you should dominate. Simple as that. I suppose the argument is that not all teams have actually dominated against London. Castleford still had their struggles. They conceded 20 points against London. Salford even had a slightly rough time. Hull FC lost to them. So it's not like it's been impossible for London to at least be competitive or show some fight in some games. So Leigh did the bare minimum of expectations, which was to dominate against the London Broncos, whereas Salford deserved to drop down because of their lacklustre performance against Huddersfield. And because Leigh did dominate, I think it's fair to move them up. So I don't know. I feel like, Leigh and Salford, I feel, could be the other way around. But just based on last week, and I've mentioned about, teams in this region of the power rankings being able to change on a week-to-week basis, I think this is about right, but I don't really have too much to say. Leigh, slightly up and down on the attacking side, slightly up and down on the defensive side. This might give them a bit more confidence because they've been slightly stale in some weeks over the last couple of months. This might give them a bit of confidence going into the next game for Super League. On the attacking side, maybe. But yeah, Leigh Leopards up 1 in 6th. Moving on to 5th place, and still in 5th place, I have the Catalans Dragons. They're a weird team. I think they are as of right now, they're the most inconsistent good team. Don't really know where to place them. I don't understand what they are as a team. I just don't get it. I mean, they're coming up they came up against a Castleford team that is really fighting at the moment and is really showing a lot of good stuff in attack and defence. But I don't know. I think sometimes there's a point where you can say, a team's had so many injuries that they have to deal with. But up to a certain point, you just have to, learn to adapt with what you've got. So we're kind of past that with Catalans. I don't know if it's an attitude problem, a culture problem. Feels pretty desperate having to bring Sam Tompkins back in for the rest of the season. You shouldn't really have to do that. I don't know if that was brought on by Catalans to say, we need you back in, or if it was Sam Tompkins saying, I just really want to play again. Maybe it's a bit of both, but I don't know. It just feels like desperate times for Catalans at the moment. I still think they're at risk of losing a playoff spot. Some weeks they'll be fine, but I don't know where to place them. They're just really confusing at the minute. But I do think they are just slightly better than Salford and Leigh at the moment, but not better than the teams above, obviously. So Catalans Dragons still in 5th. On to 4th place now, and moving down 2, I have St Helens. Now, they have lost 4 on the bounce, so they could potentially be lower down, but I think a lot of other results they've had this season, they've proven, or they've at least shown the kind of domination that they can have in a game. They've shown some moments that resemble the St Helens from, a couple of years ago, the dominant St Helens. They are really lacking a lot of sting on the attacking side. Scramble defence sometimes looks good, but are being opened up a little bit too much as of late. I think they're still a good team, generally speaking, but yeah, I don't know. There isn't really that fear factor against Saints anymore. They're very stale in attack. I know they had some key players missing. They had a few kids in there against Warrington. And I think long term that will really help those kids in terms of experience. It's a big game to throw them into. But you still have to deal with it. And I think they personally could have made a simple change for the spine. Wellesby could have gone to fullback and then Bai could have played at number 6. But they didn't do that. They put an inexperienced 18-year-old in Robertson at fullback. So that's on Paul Wellens. But I don't know. Yeah, Saints are still, generally speaking, good, but having their struggles on both sides of the ball at the moment and are pretty light due to injuries, which I fully acknowledge. But yeah, there's some things at the moment, attacking-wise, with the individuals they've got, is a little bit inexcusable in some of these games. So, yeah, and after putting up 10 points, being a man up for an hour, and being 2 men up for, 10 minutes in that time, and putting up 10 points, it's not good enough. So St Helens down 2 in 4th. Moving on to 3rd place now and moving up 1 out of the Warrington Wolves. As I just mentioned on the reverse for St Helens, Warrington were a man down for 60 minutes and 2 men down for a 10-minute period within that 60-minute span. I don't think Warrington conceded a point in that 10-minute period when they were down 2 men. I think as soon as Nicholson came back on, I think that's when they conceded. But I don't think they conceded in that 10-minute period. I don't think so anyway. The resilience in defence was incredible. It felt like they had firm control over the game. They were gifted a lot of great field position early on from Saints' mistakes like penalties or errors. So that really went against St Helens. But at least when Warrington had good field position, they scored pretty quick tries. Like, they spread the ball early, had to go early on, caught Saints off guard, attacked the left-hand side where the inexperienced centre Vaughan was for Saints. And yes, young lad, inexperienced, but smart enough to go at that side. They could have swapped things around. They could have put Wonga Blake over onto that side, played Vaughan as a left winger, for example. They could have done a myriad of things, but Warrington went at him, opened up that left-hand side, and just took an easy 12-0 lead. And then even when they went a man down, just controlled the game. Won the battle through the middle, opened Saints up through the middle. And then still too many mistakes from Saints, but Warrington capitalised off the back of it. And just the most important thing there was looking in control with a man down and then just being so strong and working so hard in defence. And even losing Ratchford, who's been actually pretty good at left centre the last couple of weeks, and especially defensively good at left centre the last couple of weeks. Really good defensive effort. Very, very proud of that. And I think because of the circumstances, easily move them up 1, could have potentially put them 2nd because of it as well. But again, as a Wire fan, I'm always careful about how much praise I give and how high I move them. But I think it's fair. Warrington Wolves up 1 in 3rd. Moving on to 2nd place and moving up 1, I have Hull Kingston Rovers. I think the main reason why I've still got them ahead of Warrington, even though Warrington have already beaten them twice this season, I think the main reason, just as of right now, because Warrington did have that dip during the Challenge Cup period, so Hull KR kind of established themselves as a stronger team power rankings wise over the last couple of weeks. I think the reason why they still are slightly above is because of the fact that I think even though they did still look relatively in control against Leeds, it's against a Leeds team that does have a lot of great individual players in there, with a coach that I actually really highly rate in Brad Arthur. I think Leeds will be better on, as the weeks go by, but I think I expected a big response from Leeds, and there was at least a little bit more energy from them, and I think to be able to withstand the pressure, or the increased pressure that Leeds showed that they probably wouldn't have done under Rowan Smith, or whoever was the interim, the assistant, currently I'm not sure his name, can't remember. But I think because of the circumstance for Leeds and the fact that Hull KR was still relatively fine and relatively in control, I think it's still fair to have Hull KR in 2nd. But for me, the gap right now between KR and Warrington is tiny at the moment. So Hull Kingston Rovers up 1 in 2nd. Finally, in 1st place, and still in 1st place, I have the Wigan Warriors. Now, a very disappointing loss against Hull FC. But in context, no French, no field, being replaced by very young, inexperienced players like Jack Farrimond and Zach Eckersley. Both, by the way, I think have done an incredible job with their opportunities this season. Farrimond on his debut was great, had some great solo moments in this game as well. Eckersley is filled in at fullback and centre. I don't know what his main position is for the reserves, but he's done a great job. He'll continue to improve at fullback if that's where he's going to be asked to play. So yeah, great opportunity for both these guys to learn. And will do them a lot of good in the future for Wigan. They always produce great talent from their reserves. And, they've been thrown into the deep end having to replace such big names in French and field. But yeah, they're doing a fantastic job. Wigan will have some down weeks with both of them out for the next couple of weeks. But I think they'll still be fine for the most part because of individuals like Wardle, Marshall, Kieran, Miskey, Smith controlling the game at 7, and the absolute shit ton of massive forwards they've got in Thompson, Havard, Mago, Dupree. Like, it's ridiculous. The plethora of huge forwards they've got is it's just ridiculous. Honestly, ridiculous. So they can still control games through the middle, but I think this is just one of those games with young players in there having to replace the key names. Yeah, it's just one of those games, and this is a Hull FC team that is looking a little bit different and has a bit more fight and energy about them. So yeah, for some, they've said it's embarrassing, but I just think, look, these games happen. Everyone goes through these kind of games, and who am I as a Wire fan to judge Wigan for losing a game that they probably shouldn't have done? Like, I've experienced plenty of those. Who am I to judge? So yeah, that's Wigan Warriors still in first place. So that's going to be it for my Super League Round 18 power rankings. If you've got your own list, do let me know in the comments down below. Have I been fair with any of these, unfair? Anything I've missed out, do let me know. But that's going to be it. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. It really does help to get the video out there more. And subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Rugby League content. But that's going to be it. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time.